Hidden Billionaire's incredible journey, exposed as a construction worker in search of true love. Jack woke up every morning with the weight of the world on his shoulders. The modest apartment he called home was filled with memories of his childhood, pictures of his smiling mother, the light catching her eyes before illness took its toll. At 30, he was a construction worker, a hard hat and steel-toed boots his daily armor against the relentless grind that defined his life. But little did anyone know, beneath the layers of sweat and grit lay the heart of a man who had given up a fortune, a billionaire hiding in plain sight. Each day, he threw himself into the work, mixing cement and lifting beams alongside a group of laborers who had become his makeshift family. They bonded over laughter, shared meals, and dreams of a brighter future, though many struggled day by day. Jack took pride in contributing to a community project aimed at revitalizing the heart of their under-resourced neighborhood. Amid clanging tools and the smell of fresh lumber, he met Sarah, a local school teacher grappling with student loans and a broken heart. Their connection was electric, laughter filling the gaps where burdens threatened to crowd in. But then one fateful day, while fixing a fence, Sarah stumbled upon a magazine article featuring Jack's face, accompanied by headlines heralding his family's wealth. As the truth wound through her mind like a jagged splinter, anxiety filled the air between them. Was their love real, or just a mirage built on a deceitful foundation? Jack felt the ground shift beneath him as whispers spread through their tight-knit community, his secret exposing him to judgment he never imagined facing. The very people who had accepted him now turned their backs, eyes filled with mistrust. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you could drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. In the chaos of doubt, Jack resolved to prove his worth, to show that wealth is not just currency, but character. As he grappled with feelings of isolation amid his former friends, tragedy struck their town. A devastating fire left families scrambling for shelter, and in that moment, Jack knew he had to act. He rallied his coworkers and orchestrated a community effort to rebuild, pouring every resource he could muster into showing up for those who had turned their backs. Jack pressed forward, fighting for trust and for Sarah, the woman whose heart he wanted to mend. He shared food, offered temporary housing, and became a beacon of hope for those in despair. Yet, as the dust settled, he stood at a crossroads. Could he reveal all of himself? Or would the costumes of status only serve to push Sarah further away? Anxiety gripped him as he faced the choice between vulnerability and safety, with the memory of her laughter still echoing in his mind. The path ahead was uncertain, a twisting road of love mingling with betrayal, and only time would tell if he could mend the fragile lines between his two worlds. Jack's heart raced as he watched the shadows of the reconstruction take shape. The once charred remnants of homes were slowly transforming into a community space, a symbol of resilience. But amidst the hammering and laughter, an ache persisted deep within him. The burden of his secret loomed closer than ever. He glanced over at Sarah, her chestnut hair glistening in the sun as she spoke with the children from the neighborhood. They laughed, their faces brightening the grim reality around them. But Jack noticed the slight furrow in her brow, all too aware of what lay between them, like an unspoken barrier. Each day, he wrestled with the truth, knowing that the longer he held on to it, the deeper the rift would grow. As the rebuilding effort unfolded day by day, Jack poured his heart into the project. He felt a sense of purpose, each nail hammered a step away from his hidden past. But with every act of kindness, he felt the shadows of doubt creep back into his mind. What if doing good only revealed more of the man he had been trying to escape? Could he even relate to these people if they found out he was more than just a construction worker? One evening, after the sun dipped below the horizon, turning the sky a deep indigo. He and Sarah lingered behind as everyone else left the site. The place felt different at night, illuminated by the soft glow of work lights, a quiet sanctuary amid the chaos of the past weeks. Jack watched Sarah as she turned, her eyes glimmering with determination. "Jack," she began, her voice soft yet powerful, "I was thinking about what we're doing here. It's more than rebuilding. It's about creating a home, a place to belong." He swallowed, the sincerity in her voice pulling at his heartstrings. It felt like a lifeline, but the weight of his secret threatened to drown him. "Yeah, it feels good to be part of something bigger," he replied, struggling to keep his voice steady. "Sometimes it feels like I'm losing my grip, you know?" She continued, her candidness cutting through the walls he had erected. "I wonder if I'll ever be able to trust again, or if I'm just dreaming in a world too good to be true." Jack felt the ground shift beneath his feet. This was the moment, an opportunity to let her in, to show her his truth. He opened his mouth, yet hesitated, the blooming connection clawing for space within the confines of his secret. "What this is real," he managed to say, his heart pounding. "What if we both are worth fighting for, no matter where we come from?" But just then, a loud shout broke the moment, and a group of local kids raced by, their laughter echoing against the walls of the new community center. She turned to watch them, the instinctive warmth in her gaze cooling when she returned her attention to Jack. "I want to believe that, Jack," she whispered, the flickering hope shining through her uncertainty. "But sometimes real life feels too complicated to navigate." A heavy silence fell over them. Jack's heart sank as he grappled with the truth he had been holding back. It hung like a storm cloud above them, waiting to burst forth. Could he risk losing her by revealing the life he had given up? And if he didn't, would he ever truly have her? The invisible line had to be crossed, but the fear of what lay on the other side gripped him tightly. As they stood there, the stakes higher than ever, Jack felt the pulse of two worlds colliding. He drew in a breath, ready to bridge the gap, only to be interrupted by the blare of sirens in the distance. "Jack," Sarah said, her brow furrowing with concern. He could tell something was off just by the way she pressed her lips together. The unease twisting in his gut was a harsh reminder that they were battling more than just their personal doubts. Could the world outside interfere with what they were trying to build together? What awaited them beyond the siren's wail? Jack gripped the edge of the moment, the choice weighing heavily in the air. Would their hopes withstand the coming storm? The sirens grew louder, a disharmony cutting through the warmth of their moment. Jack felt the tension rise, knotting in his stomach as he exchanged a worried glance with Sarah. The sounds came from the direction of the main street, where the local shops lined up, now mostly rebuilt but still bearing wounds of the past. "What do you think is happening?" Sarah asked, a hint of fear threading through her voice. "I don't know," Jack replied, his gaze drawn to the dim glow of headlights slicing through the shadows. "But it doesn't sound good." The sirens faded, only to be replaced by the distant shouts of people. Jack's heart raced, not just with concern for the community, but with the anxiety that his past might suddenly catch up to him, just as it had in so many dreams he tried to shake off. He could almost feel it pushing against him, urging escape like a ghost from an unsettling past. "Let us go check it out," Jack suggested, not entirely convinced himself. A part of him wanted to retreat back into the safety of their conversation, where vulnerability felt possible. But curiosity and a whisper of responsibility urged him to step into the chaos. Leaving the comforting lights of the community center behind, they walked toward the commotion, hearts pounding as uncertainty loomed. The air was thick with the smell of smoke, and Jack caught a flash of red and blue multiple times, a reminder that even rebuilt, their lives were fragile. As they approached the main square, they saw a crowd gathered, their faces aglow with anxiety and intrigue. A few familiar faces stood at the forefront: neighbors, community volunteers, those who had worked beside him to create something new. Jack spotted the mayor, his brow furrowed, moving about, trying to direct the scene. "What's going on?" Jack called out as they reached the edge of the crowd. "It's a fire," someone shouted back, pointing toward the nearby duplex that had just been restored. Flames licked the walls, consuming the new drywall, tearing at the heart of their restoration effort. The fire department was on the scene, but they were not the first responders. The community members had already rallied, creating a water bucket brigade in a desperate attempt to fight the inferno. Jack's eyes widened, panic washing over him. "We need help." He didn't wait for an answer. He sprinted toward the nearest bucket, grabbing it with urgency, adrenaline taking over. Sarah followed close behind, her determination matching his as they began to fill buckets and pass them down the line. It felt like they were working not just against flames, but against every struggle they had faced since the first fire, a reminder that grief and hope could coexist. Together, their combined efforts transformed fear into purpose. The people around them shouted encouragement, their voices rising, blending into a chorus of action. But amidst the chaos, Jack's mind was spiraling. This wasn't just about saving a building. It was what they stood for: community, resilience, connection. And still, his own truth loomed behind him, a weight balanced precariously on his heart. As they fought the fire, he stole glances at Sarah, her face smeared with soot but lit with determination. In that moment, he felt the invisible line stretch further, taut and trembling. Could he ever share his truth now, amid so much chaos? Just then, a figure stepped through the crowd, a familiar face that sent chills down his spine. The loaded question hung in the air like smoke. Would his secret finally be ripped open, laid bare for all to see? "Jack!" the figure called, voice piercing through the ruckus. Jack's heart seemed to stop. Who had come to this tumultuous place, and what were they about to expose? He felt Sarah's hand grip his arm, anchoring him as he turned slowly to face the unknown. The choice loomed larger now than ever: reveal himself or risk losing everything he had fought for. Was it too late to salvage hope? As the flames flickered higher, Jack realized one thing: whatever lay ahead was about to change everything. Jack's breath caught in his throat as he faced the figure weaving through the crowd. It was Mark, an old acquaintance from his past, a face he thought he'd left behind. Mark's expression was a mix of confusion and recognition, instantly igniting memories Jack had worked so hard to bury. "Jack, I can't believe it's you," Mark shouted, forcing his way forward despite the chaos. The world around them blurred. Jack felt a rush of emotions, fear slithering into his chest. "What are you doing here?" he stammered, desperately trying to maintain a steady facade. The laughter, the carefree days, they replayed in his mind like flickering shadows of regret. This man knew him better than anyone. If he spoke too much, too openly, Jack could already feel the walls of his carefully constructed life crumbling. Ignoring him, Sarah stepped closer. "We're fighting a fire here. You can't just—" "Is that Jack?" Mark's eyes flickered with disbelief. "I had no idea you were back. I've been trying to reach you for years. Why do you leave us?" "Everything." His voice trailed off, replaced by the sounds of demanding shouts and clanging metal as firefighters coordinated their actions. Jack felt his heart quicken. Looking at Sarah, he could see she was struggling to keep her focus amidst the eruption of flames. He knew he had to answer, for himself and for her. "Too many questions, Mark. Now is not the time," Jack replied, feigning calmness. He let the bucket slip from his grip, filling it with water again. They were losing ground against the inferno, the heat searing against his face, stoking the fear inside him. The flames danced with a wildness that felt almost sentient, clawing at the night. "Not the time." Mark's tone sharpened, rising above the chaos. "People are just waiting to put the pieces together. They know you're back. How long can you keep pretending?" Pretending. It hit Jack like a punch in the gut. All the work, the distance, the denial, what had it all meant if someone could simply expose him in this moment. His skin prickled, the weight of his past colliding with the present. He was a stranger here, wearing a mask he could barely recognize himself in. "Shut up," he snapped, the desperation leaking through. The flames laughed in their crackle, taunting his fear, as if they could sense the turmoil within him. Sarah's hand squeezed his arm tighter, grounding him. She was still there, And for the first time since the chaos erupted, he focused on her, the strength radiating from her. "Let us do what we came to do," she urged, a spark of determination illuminating her eyes. "We could talk later. Right now, we fight." But Mark refused to let go. "You're not fighting just a fire, Jack. You're fighting your own demons. And I enough." Jack roared over him, his heart hammering wildly in his chest. For an instant, silence enveloped them, the chaos outside fading momentarily. Jack could feel a change in the air, the weight of expectations pooled in the tension between them. The world came crashing back, shouts bursting forth as the fire leapt higher. Suddenly, there was a new urgency in Mark's voice, a plea wrapped in disbelief. "Jack, you need to face this. Don't let it consume you." A harrowing realization gripped Jack. Fighting the flames was just the beginning. There was a fire inside him that threatened to rage out of control, and if he didn't confront it now, he might lose everything he had fought to rebuild, including Sarah. Every moment he stayed quiet felt like a betrayal. But what cost? The question loomed heavy, unanswered, as both friends but strangers now locked eyes, a silent battle of emotions pulsing between them amidst the chaos surrounding them. As the flames roared louder, Jack turned back to the buckets, determined for now to push through the flames surrounding him and keep the walls of his heart intact. But deep within, a truth clawed its way to the surface. He could no longer hide from the past or for what it meant to love and be loved. The flames crackled ominously, a reminder that some secrets would soon see the light of day. Would he be able to handle the inferno within, or would it consume him utterly? Jack felt the answer faintly emerging, but it remained just out of reach, burning in the back of his mind. Sarah's voice cut through the fear, pulling him from the haze. "Whatever you're dealing with, face it with me. Just don't shut me out." And as they filled the buckets again, sustaining that flickering hope in the face of destruction, Jack realized that the fire's fury was nothing compared to what awaited him, should he finally decide to reveal his truth. Yet still, he hesitated, as the flames flickered dangerously close. Would he muster the courage to be honest, or would he allow flames of another kind to ignite? The answer was far from clear. Jack's heart raced as the flames danced wildly around them. Each time he filled another bucket, he fought against the heat, but more than the fire, he wrestled with the turmoil churning inside him. He could hear Sarah's voice, a steady anchor amidst the chaos, urging him on. "See, on, Jack. This needs our full focus. We can't let the fire spread." Her words were firm, but her eyes reflected genuine concern. He turned to her, and for a moment, the fire flickering around them no longer seemed a threat. Instead, it became a backdrop to the real battle he faced. Mark stood between them, crippled by uncertainty. "Jack, listen. You can't keep shutting me out. Not after everything shut it," Jack interrupted, throwing the last bucket of water he had just filled onto the inferno in front of him. The fire hissed in response, but didn't retreat. It was relentless, just like the truth that Mark represented. Forcing a deep breath, Jack turned back to the flames. "I came back to escape, Mark. It's not because I could face any of this. Avoiding it won't make it go away." Mark's voice trembled, laden with understanding. "You think hiding will protect you? All it does is eat you alive from the inside. You've got to confront it." Those words sat heavy on Jack's chest. Was this fire outside just a distraction, a way to push him away from facing the blaze within himself? As sirens wailed and firemen shouted orders, Jack felt the weight of the world pressing down on him. Besides the roaring flames, an internal inferno had been fighting to push through. "Jack!" Sarah shouted, dragging him out of his spiral. "Get together. It's now or never." The urgency in her voice sliced through the chaos, reigniting his resolve. He filled another bucket, splashing the water against the flames. Sweat dotted his forehead, and with each heave, it became clearer. This wasn't just about putting out a fire. This was about his desire to truly be free, not just from this blaze, but from the ghosts of his past. "Jack, I can help you." Mark stood firm, the streetlights casting shades across his worried face. "You don't have to do this alone. You don't know anything," Jack snapped, the words bursting forth before he could contain them. "You don't know what I've done or who I've hurt." At that moment, the truth inside Jack flared brightly, lighting up everything he had hidden for so long. It threatened to spill over, mixing with the chaos around them. "Then let me in," Mark shouted, his voice rising above the crackling flames. "Don't be afraid. We can work through this. You're stronger than you think." In Sarah's steady gaze, Jack found something he hadn't expected: unconditional support. She believed in him, despite his hidden fears. The rush of heat from the fire reminded him of the tension within, an unyielding pressure that demanded release. As another wave of flames lunged forward, he realized it was not just the fire he had to fight, it was the tangled web of his own truths. "What if you're right?" he murmured, almost to himself. "What if I'm tired of running?" Mark stepped closer, measured concern dancing in his eyes. "Then fight with me, Jack. We can figure out the rest together." Taking a shaky breath, Jack grabbed another bucket and dumped it onto the fire with newfound fierceness. "I have to fight for Sarah, for myself, for all the things I tossed aside." They worked together in a frenzy, pooling their strength against the raging inferno. Each splash of water felt cathartic, washing away not just the flames, but layers of shame he'd carried for too long. Yet, as the flames flickered uncertainly under their relentless assault, one burning question hovered in the air. Would he find the courage to reveal the truth that had long been suffocating him? The sirens blared louder, urgency mixing with fear as they fought the fire. Jack's gaze darted between Sarah and Mark, glimmers of hope flickering in his chest. But deep down, he felt the walls closing in. Would he finally confront the past he had buried, or would he allow it to rise and consume everything he held dear? In that moment, the fire's roar echoed a promise of transformation that hung heavily in the air. The answer loomed just out of reach, waiting for him to take that leap of faith and uncover the truth hidden within. Jack's arms burned with fatigue, the adrenaline coursing through his veins now mingled with doubt. The flames still roared, but a strange new clarity flickered within him. He was tired of running. The weight on his shoulders felt like a mountain, but if he could just share the load, Jack. "Focus!" Sarah's voice broke through the haze around him. He looked up, her expression a mix of determination and fear. "If we don't stop this now, it'll put everyone in danger." He nodded, taking a step forward, bucket in hand. Each splash felt like a small victory, but internally, shadows loomed larger. The fire was indeed an external force, but could it also symbolize the chaotic firestorm inside him? Another bucket of water, another wave of steam. The crackling flames distorted the night air, forming wild shapes. Jack glanced back at Mark. "What if I could tell you everything? Would it change anything?" Mark's eyes widened. "Everything? Yes. We'll face it together. Just don't keep shutting me out." Taking a deep breath, Jack picked up the next bucket. Words pressed against his throat like the smoke from a fire. The truth about his past, the pain he buried, it was all fighting for freedom, just like the flames that clawed the sky. Suddenly, a crash echoed from nearby. The pressure in the air thickened as a portion of the building collapsed. Jack's heart raced. Panic surged through him as he turned to Sarah, who was now staring wide-eyed at the debris. "Sarah, get back!" Mark shouted. Instinctively, Jack lunged toward her, gripping her arm. They ducked instinctively to avoid falling debris. The world around them morphed into a chaotic blur, heat licking at their faces, smoke curling like fingers around their throats. "Are you okay?" Jack asked, his voice barely breaking through the din of fire and panic. "I'm fine," she gasped, yet her eyes held a fearful intensity. "But we have to move." Jack's grip tightened. He looked at Mark, who was surveying the chaos. "We can't keep avoiding it, Jack. Whatever's eating at you, it will always be there unless you face it. The fire is just a warning." The urgency in Mark's tone cut deep. Jack felt the familiar rush of anger rise within him, a response to years of avoidance. "You think I can just unload everything? What if it's too much? No one can carry that burden alone." You need to let it go. We can help. Mark stepped closer, earnest eyes locked with Jack S. The stillness of a moment crashed upon them amidst the chaos. Then, with the faintest sound of courage igniting inside, Jack felt a shift. Instead of running, he could choose to stand his ground. They had fought the flames together. Perhaps it was time to confront his past in the same way. Jack's heart pounded. I was supposed to help my dad with the renovation, but I messed things up, and it cost him everything. If I say those words, it'll feel like admitting failure. Failure is just a step to getting stronger. Sarah interjected, her voice fierce. You're not that kid anymore. Breathing heavily, Jack met her gaze. What if I let that kid out? What if it all comes crashing down and people see me for who I really am? Then they'll see how far you've come, Mark answered gently, stepping closer. You can't keep hiding in the shadows of shame. In that moment, as flames roared behind them, something primordial took root in Jack's heart. The fear began to transform into something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. But at that crossroads, he knew he had to decide. Would he dare to fully reveal himself, embracing the fire within? The heat around him grew unbearable, but the warmth blossoming in his chest kept his thoughts racing. And as the smoke curled higher, Jack felt a decision hovering on the edge of his consciousness. Could he finally allow himself to be both the firefighter of his past and the architect of his future? The flames danced in wild abandon, but so did the thought that loomed with heartfelt urgency. Could facing his truth ignite more than just fury? Could it instead spark the path to a newfound love and redemption? Jack stood amid the chaos, the air thick with smoke and possibility. His heart raced not just from the heat of the flames, but from the internal tumult that mirrored the fire's wild nature. Every second that passed felt like an eternity, dragging him closer to a precipice he had long avoided. Jack! Now! Sarah's voice cut through the haze, pulling him back into the moment. She was right. They couldn't afford to falter, not now. That he took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his past pressing down on him. I can't keep running, he whispered to himself, his resolve hardening. With a final glance at the tumultuous inferno before him, he tossed his bucket aside and stepped closer to the fray. Do it, he urged himself, now or never. Are you ready? Mark asked, standing solidly beside him, unwavering in his support. Jack nodded, swallowing hard. Yeah, I think I am. They moved together as a united front, dodging flames and debris like a well-rehearsed dance. But beneath the adrenaline, the storm within began to calm, curiosity edging its way back into his consciousness. If he told them everything, would they still stand by him? Would the truth set him free, or cause him to lose them both? The remnants of the old building became nothing more than a dim backdrop to his growing sense of clarity, his gaze locking onto Sarah's encouraging smile. She believed in him, and that belief sparked something fierce within him. Could courage be contagious? Wiping the sweat from his brow, he shouted over the crackle of fire. The truth, I've been running from it for so long. He felt the words forming, raw and true. I thought if I buried it, I could protect myself. But I can't do this anymore. Let all out, Jack. Sarah urged, stepping closer to him. He stared into her eyes, unearthing hidden fragments of a life he thought was lost. I was just a kid, trying to keep up, trying to help my dad. But I made mistakes. I let him down when he needed me the most. Each word felt like a weight lifting from his chest. Mark took a calming step closer, his unwavering support palpable. You aren't that kid anymore, Jack. We're all here because we believe in you. Let it all go. You're not alone. In that moment, Jack felt walls crumble, not just the ones around him, but the ones he had built inside. The familiarity of the fire, of facing an uncontrolled force, felt less like a threat and more like an invitation to reclaim his truth, to confront the demons he had kept buried. Okay, Jack stammered, the confidence surging within him. My dad lost everything after the accident, and it was my fault. The admission hung heavy in the air, but with each confession, he felt lighter. I couldn't save our home, or save him. I thought that if I didn't talk about it, it wouldn't hurt anymore. You were a kid, Sarah said softly, her eyes shimmering with compassion. You were trying to do your best. But my best wasn't good enough. He shot back, raw pain surfacing. It's my fault he had to start over. Heather told me I had to let it go, that I could come back from this. But I didn't believe her. I believed the fire. A sudden roar interrupted him as a piece of the roof collapsed, showering ash around them. Jack flinched, but Mark and Sarah instinctively moved closer, their presence grounding him. See? Mark said, grinning in the chaos, you're stronger than you know. The flames danced wildly, but Jack felt something shift within, an understanding that he could forge ahead. I want to face this. I want to face it together. But what if it's not enough? As the remaining structure groaned under the weight of flames, Jack realized the fire wasn't just destruction, it was rebirth. And he was ready to awaken from years of self-imposed slumber. So we'll do it together, right? Sarah grasped his hand. You'll never have to fight your demons alone. Looking into her eyes, he saw a kindling of hope, a burning light that hinted an entirely new perspective on love, acceptance, and growth. As the last of the ceiling crashed down behind them, a spark ignited in Jack's chest, a bold promise of rebirth and new beginnings. He was ready to rise from the ashes, but as they turned to escape the still raging inferno, a flicker of uncertainty nagged at him. Could he truly let go? Could he dare to dream again? In that moment, everything felt precarious. The heat around them urged them onward, but the very questions that made him tremble lingered at the back of his mind, whispering, is this where it all begins, or will fear pull me back into the smoke? Jack's heart pounded as they stumbled through the smoke, an adrenaline-fueled blur of hope and doubt. Each step he took felt like a step into the unknown. The stranglehold of fear loosened, but still there, lurking just beyond reach. Keep moving. Sarah's voice broke through the smoke, a lifeline in the thick of confusion. He clung to her like a raft in turbulent seas. They ducked under a falling beam, and Jack tasted the acrid smoke on his tongue, sharp and bitter. But even as they escaped the fiery chaos, his mind was a tempest. Letting go was easier said than done. What if the truth pulled him back into darkness? Jack, Mark shouted, urgency thickening his tone. The exit is this way. Jack could see the light flickering in the distance, a small beacon of safety. It drew him forward, pulling at the threads of his spirit. The flames roared behind him, but the fire couldn't burn away the scars etched into his heart. Do you think it gets easier? Jack asked, breathless. The weight of his past still clung to him like an unwelcome shadow. Maybe, Sarah replied, glancing over her shoulder, but it doesn't mean you have to face it alone. What she said sank deep into his chest, igniting a flicker of resolve. He turned to look at her, really look at her, and he saw something that made his throat tighten. Belief, pure and unwavering. It's just Jack hesitated, his words tangled. What if I'm not enough? What if I fail again? Sarah paused, her expression steady. You already proved you're enough by facing this fire head-on. That says everything about your strength. We believe in you, Jack. He took in her fierce gaze, the sincerity shining through the smoke. It was terrifying and comforting all at once, like stepping onto a bridge shrouded in fog. As they reached the exit, an explosion rocked the ground beneath them. Instinctively, Jack grabbed Sarah's arm, pulling her close. We have to get out. With Mark beside them, they pushed through the last of the debris. The cool air hit Jack's face like a splash of water, awakening him to the reality outside. He needed to prove to himself he could do this. Once they reached safety, the three of them collapsed onto the grass, panting and wide-eyed. The distant wails of sirens echoed, a soundtrack to their miraculous escape. The fire crackled behind them, but here, in the cool daylight, Jack felt a shift deep within. Maybe he was still afraid. Maybe he would always carry a piece of the past with him. But maybe, just maybe, he could start to move forward. Jack, Mark said, glancing over what now. The enormity of what lay ahead hung in the air, heavy yet full of possibility. Jack felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes, mixing with the adrenaline. I guess I'll have to face the truth. All of it. Starting today. A gust of wind shook the trees, and he realized he had never truly wanted to carry his past alone. The warmth of connection spread through him, and he felt lighter somehow. "Let us go find Heather," Sarah suggested, her hand still resting on his shoulder. "Maybe she can help." "Right," Jack nodded. "But first give me a minute." He looked away, and for the first time, he let the heat of the past slip through his fingers, one memory at a time. As the sun shone down on him, illuminating their little group, he embraced the unknown, heart racing with the thrill of possibility. But even with that warmth spreading through him, a chilling thought crept back. What if the truths he uncovered were more than he could bear? What if the next challenge was worse than the fire? With a shaky breath, Jack took a step toward clarity, ready for whatever lay beyond the horizon. He was determined to find out. But could he face the reality that awaited him without fear holding him back? The fresh air outside felt surreal to Jack, a stark contrast to the chaos that had engulfed him just moments ago. The sun painted the sky in brilliant hues, yet it felt like the shadows of the past lingered just at the edges of his vision. Breathing in deeply, he tried to calm the hurricane swirling within him as he gathered himself. Jack spotted Heather making her way through the small crowd that had begun to form. Her face was a mix of fear and relief as she approached, first looking at Mark and Sarah, and finally locking eyes with him. "Jack, I was so worried." Her voice trembled, and as she reached him, her hands found their place on his arms, grounding him as if the touch could chase away the specters haunting him. "Heather," a word stuck in his throat. How could he articulate the jumble of emotions crashing against each other? The fear, the relief, the guilt, all swirling like the smoke they had just escaped. "Yes, okay," Sarah interjected, sensing the heaviness in Jack's silence. "We made it out together." "Thank God," Heather whispered, relief washing over her. But there was something deeper in her gaze, a silent question dancing there as if she could see further into him. Jack felt the weight of that gaze. "I need to talk to you," he finally managed, his voice steadier than he felt. "Of course." Heather's expression shifted, concern revealing a promise of understanding. "Let us find somewhere quiet." She led the way to a nearby bench, the chaos behind them fading into a dull roar. Once seated, Jack took a deep breath. "I've been running from things." His admission hung heavy in the air. "From my past, from myself. I didn't think I could face everything that's happened until today." Heather studied him, her brows furrowing slightly. "Running won't help, Jack. You need to confront it." "We all do." "I know," he replied, feeling exposed under her scrutiny. "But it's hard to face the truth when it's complicated, when it involves things that are so deeply buried." "What are you afraid of?" she asked softly. Her question struck him like a blow. "I'm afraid of discovering parts of myself that I don't like." What if it's worse than I imagined? I don't want to bring you into that chaos." Heather took his hand, her touch warm and reassuring. "You won't know until you try. You've already taken the first step by escaping the fire. Now it's time to leave the past behind. You deserve a chance to find joy together." For the first time in a long while, Jack felt a spark of hope igniting between them. But doubt still whispered in the back of his mind. What if trying to move on drives us apart? "You won't know until you share the weight," Heather said fiercely, her grip tightening around his. "Lean on me. Let me help." Her unwavering strength inspired something new in him. "I'm ready to try," he said, words spilling forth. "No more hiding. I want to face it all, the pain, the fears." And with her beside him, he believed maybe, just maybe, he could confront it as they sat in the quiet. A sudden noise erupted from the crowd behind them, a cheer. Curiosity pulled them both to their feet, and they turned to see a group of firefighters, emerging from the smoke, triumphant yet somber. "Heroes," Heather murmured, respect dripping from her words. The moment felt palpable, heavy with the understanding that courage came in many forms. Jack felt a shift within himself, a connection to those brave souls. Perhaps it was time he accepted his own struggles as part of his journey, but a flicker of trepidation still lingered. What if facing the past meant facing people he had tried to forget? As the cheers of gratitude filled the air, Jack stood beside Heather, ready to take the next steps. But what awaited him beyond the celebration of survival? Lurking in the shadows, he was finally prepared to confront. The idea sent a shiver down his spine that he needed to find the answers, to piece together his past, and finally forge a future with Heather by his side. But who else might be drawn into their story as he began to unearth the truth? Jack stood on the brink of a new chapter in his life, the air thick with the smoky remnants of the fire that had set everything in motion. As the last flickers of flames died down behind them, Jack felt a surge of hope blooming in his heart, a stark contrast to the chaos that had once enveloped him. With Heather by his side, the weight of his past no longer felt so suffocating. They had pushed through the fiery chaos together, and now it was time to face what still lingered in the shadows. As townsfolk gathered around the site, their voices mingled in a chorus of gratitude for the firefighters who had risked everything. The camaraderie among the community felt electric, a pulsing reminder that they were all in this fight together. Jack turned to Heather, who was still radiating warmth and strength, and he knew she was right. He couldn't navigate this journey alone any longer. "Let us go find the others," Jack said, determination threaded through his voice. He spotted Sarah in the crowd, her face lit up with a smile mixed with relief. "We need to see how everyone is holding up." As they moved closer, Jack caught bits of conversation, people expressing their gratitude and disbelief that they had made it through the night. Together, they approached Sarah, who greeted them with open arms. "You guys are amazing. That was incredible," she said, her eyes shining bright. "Thanks to you too," Jack replied genuinely. "I couldn't have done it without your support." His gaze softened, feeling the bond they had cultivated amid adversity. "Listen, Jack," Sarah began hesitantly, her eyes searching his for clarity. "I've been thinking about what happened and about what you said before." Jack's heart raced, feeling the tidal wave of emotions surge at the thought of unveiling his truth. "I know. I need to face it," he said, nodding. "I've realized that hiding doesn't protect me anymore." The truth felt liberating yet daunting. He took in a deep breath, feeling the air fill his lungs, quelling some of the anxiety twisting inside him. "I'm done running away. I want you both to know who I really am. Whatever it is, Jack will stand by you," Heather reassured him, her voice as steady as the foundations they had laid. Jack could feel the strength in her words, wrapping around him like a comforting blanket. With a few gathering friends, Jack found a quiet corner, the sunset spilling warm golden light across their faces. That was where he would finally unveil the past he had long buried. "I owe you all a part of my story," he began, his voice shaking slightly as nerves coursed through him. "And it's not pretty." In that vulnerable moment, Jack revealed everything: how he had once lived in the shadows of a wealthy family, the pressure that had come with it, and the terrible accident that had changed everything. As the words spilled forth, the shadows slinking behind him began to lose their grip. "I didn't just leave a fortune. I lost my father's trust. I thought if I ran, I could escape it all. But the truth is it chased me." When he finished, silence hung in the air for a heartbeat, punctuated only by shared breaths. Then Sarah stepped forward, her eyes brimming with understanding. "Jack, thank you for sharing this with us. Remember, you're not defined by your past." Jack felt a warmth settle in his chest. Here was acceptance. "I'm ready to find redemption, to rebuild not just my life, but trust and connection with everyone in this community. If you'll let me," he added earnestly. Then Mark stepped up, a smile breaking through his formerly tense expression. "You've taken a huge step, Jack, believing in yourself. That courage is what will help you rise from the ashes together." Jack felt the atmosphere shift, an electric bond weaving them closer, as if the flames had forged a stronger connection. Tears filled his eyes, not of sorrow, but joy and relief at the acceptance he had craved for so long. As they shared hugs and expressions of support, Jack felt renewed. There was no more hiding. He was stepping into his truth, no longer burdened by shame. From that day on, the reconstruction of their community was about more than just bricks and mortar. It was about building lives anew. Jack participated wholeheartedly, working by Sarah and Heather's sides on projects that brought every corner of the neighborhood together. Laughter replaced whispers. Hope flourished where despair once reigned. Jack watched as trust blossomed among the townsfolk, feeling the shift in his own heart as well. The connection deepened with Sarah, their laughter weaving threads of love that lifted him. And Heather stood by him, her unwavering support illuminating his path. Each day, Jack moved closer to healing, facing not just the memory of the mistakes, but embracing the person he was becoming. The more he opened up, the more he found joy in the surprises that life had to offer him, a true partnership built on love, resilience, and the unwavering support of a community that had become family. It's all part of this incredible journey, he told Heather one day, as they sat beneath a blooming tree at the community center. She smiled back, her heart fully aligned with him. "Let us continue to build this together," she said softly, intertwining her fingers with his. And that was all it took: the resolve to step forward, hand in hand, ready to seize whatever life opened up next. They faced the horizon together, limitless in possibility. The past no longer chained him. He was free, and for the first time in a long while, the future looked bright. As Jack dug deeper into community service, laughter echoing through the streets, he realized this true wealth lay in the connections they made, the love they shared, and the lives they chose to uplift. Each breathtaking sunset became an affirmation of new beginnings, a promise of a future alive with hope. And Jack understood that this journey was just beginning, the next chapter unfolding one brave step at a time. This community was his true inheritance: love, family, and a place he could always call home. So, let this adventure inspire you. You need to subscribe now to the channel and not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these incredible tales alive. If you felt moved, comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. And don't wait, not even one more second. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let's spread the love.